This is the September Winston-Salem Recreation and Park Commission meeting. We'd like to get started, so we'll call it to order. And I guess, Felicia, you're going to read the governor's statement.
Okay, so due to the governor's recent order, all members of the Recreation and Parks Commission are participating virtually. For virtual meetings, members will be asked to be muted. At the time of the vote, it will be a roll call vote. Members will state their name and their vote. And today's meeting is a public meeting per the notice. Citizens can listen to the meeting, and if they contact the city manager's office and make necessary arrangements, they can listen to the live stream, which will be available on the city's YouTube channel, which can be accessed via the city website. Okay, we'll go ahead and do a roll call. We do have one new face joining us, Michelle Portman. She is recently appointed to the Recreation and Parks Commission. This is her first meeting, so welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Our other new commission member, he may join us a little bit later. His name is Michael Green. This will also be his first meeting. So go ahead and do roll. John Gunkel.
Present.
All right, awesome. Sean Hawkins.
Present.
And like I said, Michael Green is maybe joining us a little bit later, but we'll go ahead and mark him absent for now. Taylor Ansley.
Present.
Okay. John France. John France.
I'm here.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry.
Perfect. Bob Hartwell. Bob Hartwell. Okay. George Peterson.
Oh, present.
Okay. Mashika Jefferson.
Here.
Joe Cassidy. Joe Cassidy. Okay. And Michelle Portman.
Present.
Perfect. We do have quorum.
Felicia, I know that we before we move forward, we do have a guest.
Yes, that is right. We do have a guest as well.
And his name is Mr. Joe Jackson. Joe probably doesn't know that I know him, but is a registered landscape architect, I believe, Mr. Jackson. I'm not sure if you're still with the University of Duke, but I know that you were at Duke University doing some things. He is a fellow, right, with the American Society of Landscape Architects. It's actually an honor that you're with us today. I know that you were at our last meeting. Are you still in Durham? You are still in Durham?
I'm back and forth between Durham and here in Winston-Salem. And I'm somewhat semi-retired from Duke, but I'm spending a lot of time in Winston-Salem with my mom these days. Yeah, there you go. Well, thank you very much, William.
It's a pleasure to have you, and thank you for being here and showing interest in our Recreation and Parks Department. Have you been back over to A&T and around those parts lately?
You know, I haven't in a while. No, I haven't. Not recently, anyway.
Yeah, I went back and helped them out. We actually hired an intern from their program that worked with us for the first time this summer. And so we're looking kind of strengthen that bond between us and our landscape architecture program. But Mr. Jackson, it's a pleasure to have you here. Fantastic. It's a pleasure to have you here. Wait till I tell Perry Howard, who joined my Recreation Commission meeting. He's going to be impressed.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Just been a little nosy and just want to see what's going on.
It's no problem at all. These meetings are
very interested in how things are moving. As a matter of fact, I will include. What's that again?
I said no. We welcome. They're open to the public, and we welcome any feedback, any suggestions you may have as we move through and as we go through. We are getting or have received a a substantial amount of funding for our Recreation Parks Department, probably over the past 10 to 12 years, which is unheard of during these times. I think it's the first time ever in our department we've received that much money. So we've been making some improvements and trying to do things the right way. And feel free to reach out, asking the questions as we move through.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, William. I appreciate that.
No problem at all. Felicia, I'm sorry. I want to turn it back over to you and the chair for general business.
No, it's okay. So John, if you would like to move for the approval of the August minutes.
Well, I'd like to welcome Michelle and Michael to the commission. Also, I'd like to welcome our guest, Joe Jackson. Appreciate you being here. Okay, the first order of business is the approval of the minutes that Felicia sent out. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve. George?
Second.
I'll second that.
Was that Sean? Sean, was that you that seconded?
Yes.
Okay, make sure to state your name for me when you make a motion or a second, please. Okay, we'll go ahead and do the roll call vote. John Gunkel,
Approve.
Sean Hawkins,
Approve.
Taylor Ansley,
Approve.
John France,
Approve.
George Peterson,
Approve.
okay, Mashika Jefferson,
Approve.
and Michelle Foreman. Michelle, do you approve?
If I'm allowed to,
Yes, you are allowed to. Yes.
I read that in your notes. So so yes, I did read the minutes and they looked good to me.
Okay, perfect. All right, the minutes are approved.
Okay, moving on then, I guess John was going to discuss the approval of remote or in-person meetings.
Yeah, Chair, we at our last meeting, we talked about some changes to or amendments to the changes and or amendments to the city ordinance as it pertains to boards and commissions meeting remotely. And I don't know if I fully understood all of it, and made the suggestion that we ask John Lawson, our assistant city attorney that provides oversight over recreation, to kind of come and kind of go over what those new policies and amendments were, and also provide him some time to answer any questions that the commission may have. So John, at this point, I will turn it over to you, and thank you for joining us today.
Sure. Thank you, William, and chair, members of the commission. Good to be with you as always. Just kind of briefly to go over sort of where we are right now with everything. Obviously, we're still meeting remotely, which is why everybody's face is about this big on my screen instead of seeing you all around a table. Ever since Mayor Joines enacted his state of emergency back at the beginning of COVID, the city's commissions have been allowed to meet remotely by Zoom or Teams or however. And that authority to continue these commission meetings remotely will remain in effect as long as the mayor's state of emergency remains in effect. I'm sure some of you probably have heard that the governor's state of emergency is no longer in effect as of about August 15th or so. But the mayor is keeping his state of emergency in effect for right now. It's my understanding that as long as the COVID transmission numbers are still somewhat high, that state of emergency will remain in effect. So as long as that state of emergency is in effect, the commission can continue to meet remotely over Zoom. However, if the state of emergency, the mayor ends the state of emergency, then the commission will no longer have the authority to meet remotely, and all commission member meetings will have to be in person with all the members attending in person. However, in June, the city council passed an ordinance, and the action request form is on the screen in front of you, Basically what that ordinance does is it allows the city's commissions to continue to meet remotely, even if the state of emergency ends. And the way that they can do that is they can pass a resolution that authorizes them to meet remotely. The only catch is that resolution authorizing remote participation by one member or remote participation by everybody has to be passed at an in-person meeting. So if the commission wants to continue to meet remotely, indefinitely, or for, a fixed amount of time, however you want to do it. But if the commission wants to continue to meet remotely, then it would need to either before or after the state of emergency ends, have an in-person meeting, just a regular, one of the monthly regular commission meetings, have an in-person meeting. And one of the agenda items would be, a resolution to allow the commission to resume meeting remotely or virtually, it can be for an indefinite amount of time, going forward, or it can be, just fixed in nature, like, for the rest of this year or through the end of 23, however you wanted to do it. You can also put in there if you wanted to, certain types of meetings could be in person. You could have quarterly or semi-annual meetings that had, at least, one meeting or two meetings or four meetings or however you wanted to do it per year were in person. You could craft it however you wanted, but as long as the state of emergency is in effect, then you really don't have to do anything. It's just a matter of being proactive that if the mayor decided he wanted to end his state of emergency tomorrow, all of a sudden you guys can't meet remotely anymore. So, if meeting remotely, at least some of the time, is something that this commission wants to do for, whatever reason, maybe it aids in the participation of more commission members, whether it's just easier to be able to kind of remote in from where you are versus having to come to a fixed location. That's fine. It's just, just be mindful of the fact that if the state of emergency ends without that resolution having been passed, then you just can't meet remotely anymore. So, I feel like that was somewhat rambling in nature, but the short and sweet of it is, at some point in time, if you guys want to meet remotely, you're going to have an in-person meeting to decide that. That's kind of the short and sweet. Now, whether that in-person meeting is called on your own to be proactive, or whether your hand is forced by the mayor's state of emergency ending, that's kind of up to you guys. Any kind of resolution that the commission wants to consider, I'm happy to help craft. I'm happy to present and answer questions whenever it comes up for a vote or for discussion at that in-person meeting. And I'm also happy to answer any questions that any of you might have now.
I actually do have a question, maybe for ongoing situations like this. What would be the process for changing the rules such that you wouldn't have to have an in-person meeting to decide to have remote meetings? It feels pretty roundabout and strange to me. I'm sure it's just a weird loophole in the way things are written. Who would that be, a city council decision?
It would be, and the reason for it being worded the way it is, that it required the decision to continue to meet remotely requires to first have an in-person meeting, was done on purpose. The thought being that, if a city's commission wants to continue to meet remotely, then the public should, in theory, have a chance to come and voice concerns, or, be more aware, I guess, in theory, as to what the purpose of and what's being discussed and everything. And that was, because I asked that question too, is whether that was intentionally drafted, because I didn't prepare the resolution that council passed, but our office intentionally drafted it that way to require that in-person meeting in order to continue to meet remotely, with the thought being that it would encourage or possibly prompt public participation and feedback to the extent that there is any.
Okay, thank you. But if nobody else has input, I just have a request. I would personally like for us to whenever we have that meeting to pass some sort of resolution, I'd like to request we have a sort of a blanket just option to always have the meetings be remote, at least always have a remote option. I know for me, especially if as things have started kind of picking up, it would be pretty difficult for me to attend in-person meetings very frequently. So I don't know what everybody thinks about that, but that's my 2 cents. Is for, both health and convenience reasons, remote options would be great. I'd love to see you all in person at some point soon.
I would second that, George. I mean, I feel very much the same way. I would love to do, an in-person meeting maybe a couple times a year or something like that, but that in general, kind of maintain the option of having a remote meeting and use that as our sort of default. It's just a good kind of efficiency thing and just ensures my participation for sure.
Are we suggesting that this remote option is for an individual or for the whole meeting, or what are we saying here? It sounds like since George couldn't always meet, it would be an option for an individual and not the general meeting. So if somebody wants to, do it remotely, I don't know, what we send a notice to Felicia or something that they were going to do it remotely. I don't know exactly how that would work, but I think that's what we're saying.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Go ahead.
No, I was done. I just want to know how everybody else felt.
My request, honestly, would be obviously for now, I mean, when numbers are high and when we're waiting for the emergency to end, I would obviously say let's continue, remotely as long as we can. My personal opinion is, I mean, especially with work being the way it is, and my company has been talking about maybe going back to in person on some schedule where we're requiring us to be there. I mean, I would prefer to always have the option to be remote for sure. I think that to me is not a question. However, I think it seems to me we have more people typically available than we did in person when we do the remote meetings. And also, in my opinion, it's hard when you're remote and most other people are not. Where there's like some people in a room together talking, and then you're trying to hear all of them and getting the microphone set up. To me, these meetings have been more straightforward, always remote. So my suggestion would be, at the very least, always have a remote option. And my second suggestion would be have the meetings be typically remote and on some schedule, or as we determine it makes sense based on something that's going on, or we want to be able to see something better in person, or something like that, or have a meal, that sort of thing. Then we decide in some way to have the meetings, to have that meeting in person with the remote option. But to me, having it default remote is a better option for me, but I don't know how everybody feels about it. Shut up and let somebody else talk now.
This is Mashika, and I would agree. My participation would be more consistent if it were the remote option, versus trying to rush from somewhere that I was, because a lot of times my job is out in the field. So trying to rush from one place to get to a meeting, can't say that, it couldn't happen, but I'm just saying that the remote option, it's better to me. I would agree, health-wise as well as participation-wise. It seems like you'd have the most participation if you just log in, versus trying to get to a location at a specific time. And that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Anybody else have an opinion?
Yeah, I don't have an opinion. I didn't know whether we were going to be able to have anything else on the agenda. I think, can we table this to some other time to discuss, because we can't do it anyway?
Well, I think that was the purpose of kind of going over that now, because if the mayor decided to rescind his state of emergency in 2 weeks, then this commission would be required to meet in person at our October meeting. And so I believe the attempt here was to kind of get it out there on the floor. This was the main topic of discussion today, other than departmental updates, because I wanted to make sure that we had enough time to kind of go through it. And that's kind of what these meetings are for. and kind of get some feedback from you all in terms of, from the commission, in terms of kind of where you feel more comfortable. Is it the remote meetings, or is it a hybrid of both, or is it strictly in-person meetings? I was just trying to get some honest feedback. I think the one thing we have to remember here is that we're allowed to, under the current city ordinance, to continue to meet remotely as long as the mayor's state of emergency is in place. I think John Lawson was very clear when he stated that if the mayor rescinds that, we will be forced to meet in person. And I think if that were to happen, we need to be prepared to vote or pass a resolution deciding the direction of meetings moving forward. So,
yeah, and one thing, if I can add, William, is that there is, the city ordinance does allow for a hybrid nature of a commission meeting, where you could have folks who are both present in person as well as participating remotely. The only catch with those hybrid meetings is that there has to be a quorum of the commission that is physically there in person in order for that remote participation to be allowed by some members. Like, you couldn't just have, for example, two commission members meeting in person and everybody else participating remotely.
right.
But if the commission was meeting in person and there was a quorum, and the quorum being all non-virtual people, the quorum of all the non-virtual people would have to be in person. But if 8 of you guys wanted to meet in person, a couple of them, because of a scheduling issue or some other sort of permitted reason, like a illness or family emergency or a scheduling conflict, something like that, those folks can continue to participate remotely, as long as everybody else is in person. But yeah, so really, it's a matter of, do you want to be sort of proactive about it and go ahead and have the authority to continue to meet remotely, or be forced into an in-person meeting? Because in theory, if you think about it, like, the mayor could have said, all right, my state of emergency is ending October 31, and all of a sudden you guys are scrambling today to meet in person because you wouldn't have the authority to meet remotely. So it's just kind of a matter of, you want to go ahead and get that authority passed by a resolution from the commission to continue to meet remotely indefinitely as a body. And so, I certainly understand some of the comments and concerns, and we can definitely address those when this matter comes back before the commission, to make sure you guys are comfortable with whatever the plan is and whatever the resolution would be.
My question is, can we have a combination of those that want to meet virtually and the ones that want to meet in person? Could you do it both? You can have a combination of the two, if that can be accepted.
You could, yeah, you could have an in-person meeting that has remote participants at it, for sure. You would just have to have a quorum of the commission, and that the way the council resolution that was passed in June defines it is, the quorum must be physically present in the meeting room, and for purposes of determining a quorum, the members participating remotely shall not be counted. So it's just a matter of numbers and math as to whether you can pull it off with that sort of split participation. But if almost everybody wants to meet remotely and only a handful of you guys want to meet in person, there's nothing that would stop a couple of you guys from being together, but it would still technically be a remote meeting because there's not a quorum physically present in whatever that meeting space is. If that makes sense.
George Peterson posted something in the chat screen that says, summary, I recommend we meet in person when our hand is forced, and preferably hold that meeting outdoors or somewhere with good ventilation, and pass a resolution that states the following. A remote option is always available regardless of quorum in person. Meetings are usually remote. And number 3, as needed or as it makes sense, schedule in-person meetings with a remote option. And again, all of those are options. Chair, I just wanted to make sure that you are aware of what Mr. Peterson posted in the chat as an option as well.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. But with the caveat that if we just have some people remote, we have to have a quorum of those physically present, as John pointed out. Does it really?
But that's only if we don't pass our own resolution saying that we can always be remote. Isn't that correct?
Well, that's something different though. Somebody has suggested, like, some people, meet remote and some not, but we won't have a quorum unless we have enough of those that are meeting in person. So,
But
unless it's all remote, right?
But I know
Okay.
from my standpoint, Chair, members of the commission, there's a level of it's easier to meet remotely. I think that goes without saying. There's less travel time, what I call just wasted windshield time driving from point A to point B just for the meeting. However, I do see value in meeting in person. There is a level of, we have different types of conversations face to face than we do through Teams, Zoom, cameras, and using other means of technology. Again, at the mercy of the commission, I would like to still meet remotely at least a couple of times a year. I stated earlier, I think at the last meeting, I said something of maybe meeting once per quarter in person.
You mean, I think you meant meet in person.
Yeah, meet in person like once per quarter.
Yeah, right.
Because I know that,
No, I agree with that.
Even with everyone's schedules, there are some times where we take field trips and we're able to kind of get you out and show you some things that you wouldn't be able to see otherwise. I still think that's important for the commission to kind of see, especially with some of these newer things that we have going on. But I'm open to whatever. I do know that we did meet, if there were some sort of combination or hybrid of in-person and virtual, that we were still planning on providing lunch and having those meals prepared like we did in the past. I know commission said what they preferred, Chair, and I just wanted to reiterate what I said at our last meeting. I think that some sort of in-person engagement, that's what we do as a department. We like to meet people. And so I think that it's important that we do have some meetings in person. It's good to put a face with a name, and to me, it's just that type of engagement is something that me and my staff thrive off of.
No, I definitely agree with that. And I think if I heard John Lawson right, we would have to get together in person and say, we want remote meetings. However, when we want to meet in person, we have Felicia send out, an email or whatever saying, the November meeting will be in person at this place at this time. I think that's the way that would work.
Yeah,
I'm on board with that. I mean, we can make it, the standard is to meet remotely, but, a couple times a year, if we want to see some particular facility or whatever, we meet in person, and we need to have that flexibility.
Yeah, in essence, the resolution would give you guys that flexibility going forward. You would have, you're not forcing yourself or committing the commission to always meeting remotely or always meeting in person, but you're giving yourself the ability to be flexible. It's like, if we want to meet remotely, we can. And that would, in essence, say what the resolution says. For the foreseeable future, or indefinitely, or until rescinded, or however you wanted to do it, you have that authority to meet remotely. Whether you actually do or not, is up to the commission. But you just can if you want to. You being the commission want to.
Yeah. So I guess the decision we have to make is: do we want to get together in person and pass this resolution, or wait until after, the emergency order is rescinded, then do it when we have to.
Chair, I would I think that just from my standpoint, that it might be easier to go ahead and handle it sooner than later, as opposed to waiting for that order to be rescinded. It could be another year. It could be another 2 years. It could be another 2 weeks. But I think that making sure that the commission is prepared, regardless of when that decision comes down, allows us to be in the best place moving forward. We'll know exactly what we need to do for the following meetings. We can go ahead and begin scheduling out some of those tours that we used to do, and kind of forecast those out long enough in advance that people can, won't have a lot of difficulty adjusting their schedules. But I think that we probably should meet sooner than later. If not at our October meeting, definitely before the November meeting.
Right. So, we could basically have, the October, November meeting, an in-person meeting where we'd vote on this or on the resolution and get it all set up. Then we could go back to remotely. I think that's one way to handle it.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, in theory, combine the, a field trip with your next commission meeting anyway,
Right.
If there's something that William or staff or whomever the commission wanted to see in person, you could do your meeting there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if there's a field trip or, maybe our October meeting, we just we meet in person so that we can, pass this resolution the way we want it. Then we can go back to remote if that's the way we, write the resolution. I'm on board with that. We need to.
My suggestion, we have some nice gyms that we just refinished, so we could do it in one of the gyms, and that would allow for social distancing, and plenty of personal space. So that way we're not all crowded in one little room. And we can do box lunches, so that way you guys don't have to eat there. You can take it and go once all the business is done. You don't have to sit and linger.
Chair, just as a suggestion to piggyback on what Felicia said, if it's the commission's wish, we could meet at Carl Russell. Don't know how many of you have seen that facility since the renovations. It's an absolutely fabulous facility. We could have our meeting there. The order of business would be, unless there's something that major that comes up that requires the commission's attention between now and then, let that resolution be the order of business for the day. And once that's complete, we can have staff as well as myself can take some time to kind of show you around that new facility, show you some of the cool things we've been doing.
Sounds good to me.
You want to maybe, I don't know if Felicia, this will be an official vote, but maybe kind of poll the members of the commission to see if that's an option.
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that. What we can do is we can take a vote to have the next meeting in person to discuss the future of in-person versus virtual meetings. And we can put to have that meeting at Carl Russell. So yeah, we can go ahead and do a vote for that.
Before we move forward, John, I have one last question. If the meetings are hybrid and we have a quorum, do those members that are meeting remotely, can they still vote on items?
They can.
Okay. So their votes still count as though they were, even if it's a hybrid meeting, as long as we have a quorum with those people who are in person.
Right.
Okay.
But that's only needed for the first meeting, correct? And then once the commission has their own resolution,
Then it moves forward after that.
it would follow whatever the commission comes up with, correct?
Yeah, the voting thing, I mean, like if everybody was remote except for, say, for example, Mr. France, then, you would, if there's an item that was coming up for a vote, normally you would just do a voice vote and you just say like ayes and nays. Then you would also have to, Felicia, poll anybody who's voting remotely or participating remotely to get their vote on the record as well, since they're not in person to raise their hand or anything like that. But that's a small administrative thing, but there's nothing that would stop somebody from being able to participate fully if they were remote.
Okay, so it wouldn't be like the roll call vote like what we're doing today?
It would. You could. I mean, in theory, you could do a roll call vote of everybody, even if in those hybrid situations.
Okay.
For clarity's sake,
I
but
feel
in
like that might
theory,
be easier.
yeah. I mean, it probably might be for record keeping or whatever. But if if there's 10 of you guys who are in person and you just do a voice vote, for those in favor, and everybody says yes and nobody says no, it's quicker that way. But it's for consistency's sake, or maybe to be thorough, just do a voice vote, poll everybody like you are doing now and have been doing with these remote meetings.
Okay. All right, great.
Well, that Taylor and George had some. I know that their work schedules were beginning to get a little active. Like, would it be possible for you guys to meet in October, or would you rather kind of push it back to like a November meeting?
I mean, I think it should be fine for me. I was just looking at my schedule and I can probably work it out.
Yeah, I'm personally fine with October as well.
Is there anybody that is not available in October?
What's the date? I forgot of the meeting. October.
It would be October 4th. October 4th.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess without any objections, Chair, you want to just go ahead and we plan on meeting at Carl Russell at noon on October 4th, with the order of business being to pass the resolution on how we'll conduct meetings moving forward. And then after that, spend some time and allow the commission to walk through the facility and look at some of the hard work we've been putting in for the past few years.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Do we need to take a vote to do that, or?
I mean, as long as nobody said there was no objections, I don't believe so.
Okay. All right. Sounds good then. All
right, John, thank you so much. And we'll get you a copy of the minutes once they're prepared, just in case there are any other questions come up. But unless there are any other questions for John Lawson, he's a very, very busy man. I'd like to cut him loose and allow him to get on with the rest of his day.
All right, great.
Thank you, guys.
I guess we're going to, next item of business is the department updates. So,
yeah, Chair, before we get into departmental updates, I do want to take well, I guess it is an update. Take a couple of minutes to kind of go over, I know that many of you have maybe saw in the paper, there was a fire at Washington Park. One of our older picnic shelters burned down. It was one of the more historic looking shelters in the park. It was made with old cedar posts. The fire department and Winston-Salem PD have concluded their investigations and have not been able to determine a true cause of the fire. We did have cameras, or a camera there that our park ranger had in place just for securing of the area during construction. There had been some vandalism. They didn't really find any conclusive evidence to suggest arson. We also didn't find anything to suggest that it was not arson. I know that there was no power on that shelter. There weren't any outlets. As far as I know, there weren't any lightning strikes. There wasn't any evidence of a grill being left unattended. So we have our thoughts and I'm sure the other people have theirs. However, we did have a meeting with Councilmember Larson last week, and it is his wish to rebuild that picnic shelter as close to the original one that burned down. So that's going back with cedar posts. It won't be one of these newer metal picnic shelters. We're going to try to keep it in context with the character of that historic park in our park system. So we'll be soliciting quotes here soon to begin to move forward with that shelter replacement. It's probably going to happen. The shelter being replaced is probably going to happen after the construction, the phase 1 construction at Washington Park is complete. But we'll get together with my maintenance team and my park superintendent, and we'll figure out a plan to move forward and get that shelter replaced. But wanted to kind of put that out there. I know that was in the paper since our last meeting, and just wanted to take a few seconds and kind of go over that with you, give you a chance to ask any questions.
Mr. Royston, I know you don't know me that much yet, but actually I work in architecture, and my background and my specialty is historic preservation. I actually lived on Vintage Avenue for many years. Okay. And when we had the tornadoes back in the 90s, I actually documented the historic shelters that were damaged, and pro bono gave that information to the city for the reconstruction. So any way I can be of assistance to you, I would be happy to do that as far as the Washington Park shelter is concerned.
That is awesome. Listen, I probably will take you up on that offer. We do have some pictures. We have some pretty amazing pictures and some documentation in terms of where, like, how that structure looked before it burned down. But would love to kind of share that with you, get some feedback from you. I'm sure the Councilmember Larson would appreciate that as well. So we'll definitely be reaching out to you here shortly.
I know John well.
Yeah, you too. Yes.
I just finished the 300-page report on Bethabara for the city.
Yes. So you and I have met.
Yes, we have.
Yes, I have met. Okay.
She was here in the office recently.
We'll definitely share that information with you. What I found just in our records, I don't know how accurate it is, but I think it's, from what people have told me, it's been pretty accurate. But I believe a lot of those shelters were built by maintenance staff many years ago, and they used some of the existing trees. For what I was told, they used the trees in the park to build the shelters from. I think it's going to be, the trick is going to be able to find the right type of tree with the right diameter for the posts and the rails and everything. But there were several shelters like that city staff actually constructed themselves at Washington Park. I think some in a few other parks near downtown as well. So it's going to be pretty interesting. But we're looking forward to moving forward and getting that shelter replaced.
Happy to help in any way I can.
Thank you. Apologize for that short slide off there, Chair. We'd like to move into departmental updates, starting with Leah Friend, the Assistant Director over Recreation Centers.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Let me get back to my notes. So I know we got a couple more commission members on here that have recently joined the group. I have updated all the information for NCRPA, which is the North Carolina Recreation and Parks Association, and NRPA, which is our National Recreation and Parks Association. They're kind of our go-to when we're looking for information and trends on what's going on in the world of recreation. So if you have not received an email saying that you are a member, please let me know. Or if you don't know what your login information is, I do have that information. And for the new members, I'll make sure that I get you a membership too, so that you can click on there and kind of it goes into a little bit more detail of like what other municipalities are doing. The national ones where I often go to find a lot of resources, there's a lot of webinars, just a plethora of good information's on there. So I'll make sure that I get your information from Felicia and we'll get you guys added on.
I think we have them added.
Oh, did I already get them on there?
Yep, they should be.
Oh, perfect. Well, hopefully everybody got that email. If you did not get the email, welcome you to NCRPA or NRPA, let me know and I'll make sure that they resend that to you. Couple of updates. Oh gosh, it seems like forever ago. I guess it's maybe about 6 months ago. we had a presentation with Novant and Duke about the Parks and Pediatrics program that we're partnering with. It's been a long road. I think we've got this partnership grant back in 2019, and due to COVID, it's been a slow progress to get it up and going, but we have targeted September to begin the program. And this is a referral program where you have individuals, basically teenagers is what the target population is, that may be obese or underserved. So they'll go to the clinics, they'll go to Novant, there'll be referrals to come down and do recreational activities with us. So got a great partnership working with them. Like I said, targeting to start that this month, and that will be housed at Martin Luther King Recreation Center. We have also recently completed painting at Mini League Davis Harris. So maybe one of our future field trips, whenever we decide what to do, be a great place to go stop and look. There's been some positive changes out there. And beyond that, just some typical recreation program updates. We were offering a senior soiree, and that is that beautiful flyer that we have presented on your screen. That is essentially a senior prom. So if you guys are looking to go out, do a little dancing, eat some good food, let us know. We're still selling tickets. Should be a great event. First time that we've done it. And I believe we're going to host that actually over at Salem Lake. So not only will we'll have everybody dressed up in to the nines, you'll have that beautiful backdrop of the lake. Looking forward. This should be a lot of fun. We have our after school program that started last week. Most of our locations are full. We are working with Providence right now to make sure that we have food services for all of our locations. As you guys know, food securities are a major conversation in the community, and we want to make sure that anybody that participates in our programs long-term are having access to food. So that will, food services should start this week or next. We've got ladies basketball night starting at Sim Center, targeting teenagers, trying to get our young ladies off the streets doing something fun, something positive. And then I'm gonna kind of skip ahead on some of these, Felicia, I'm sorry, because I don't think I have all of them. But just the last thing that I kind of want to touch base on is we have generously received tickets from the professional bull riding event that's coming to the LJVM this weekend. They're providing 100 tickets to the youth of Winston-Salem to participate in this event. I know that William's been working closely with them, and then I have my districts working with the community to make sure that we're providing opportunities. So that'll be fun, something different. And then of course we have our real reading program that will come up. Gosh, it's only in a couple weeks, September 17th. And the real reading program that's targeted for 3 to 5 year olds. What we do is we read books with the kids, and after the books, we do an activity that kind of loops in some of the sight words, get them engaged, kind of want them to participate in activities that do memory recall. So when you read the books, the activity that you do ties into it. So this one, the day the crayons quit, which would be a sad thought, because think about the world with no color in it. The children will go back and they'll actually talk about the colors and things they learn, and they'll incorporate that into a fun activity they can take home. So that's all I have. I will pass it on to William. Did you have anything you want to add in about the PBR?
No, I know that Mayor Pro Tem Adams, there was a pretty huge thought was placed into that by Mayor Pro Tem Adams to provide access to an event that's hosted here, a nice event that's hosted here locally, where a lot of the kids in the neighborhoods probably wouldn't have access to go. So they graciously provided 100 tickets, and Leah and her staff are handling the transportation. I think it's going to be a win-win for everyone. So looking forward to that. Again, that's this Sunday, September the 11th, I think, from like 11 to 6. Mm-hmm. Yes. Greg, you want to go ahead and go through your updates as well?
Yeah, thank you, William. Good afternoon, everybody. Just a couple of updates from a very busy programming season that we've got coming up. A couple of highlights. We have 200 youth soccer players joining us, ages 5 to 12. Really high retention rate on our youth athletic programs. So we've seen around about 87% of participants joining us through the course of the year, which is a tremendous stat, which we're really happy about. We hope that those kids will go on and join us for basketball, which is coming up in the winter as well. Aside from that, for adults, we have dodgeball, volleyball, and softball. We are expanding our tennis programming thanks to a new contract that we have over there at Joe White Tennis Center to try to grow tennis into some of the neighborhoods. A lot of focus on youth. Historical Theatre, we have Apple Fest returning. Some of us have done that. That's going to be on Saturday, September 24th. And then some other ones, kayak tours will return at Salem Lake. If you haven't been out to Salem Lake, where my office is located, we've done a lot of construction work, which is just there's a couple of little bits and pieces that we're still working on down here. But it looks tremendous. But ramp is open, kayaks are being able to rent again. So as a result, we're seeing more and more people out here again, enjoying the slightly cooler weather. And it's a beautiful location, as Leah had touched on just a minute ago. Couple of final things I'll leave you with. I don't want to go too deeply into it, but we're going to be looking at adaptive programs for our therapeutic recreation division. That includes adaptive fishing. William touched on increase the budget, and we've used that stuff to go on and buy adaptive equipment, side-by-side bikes, and adaptive golf cart, to really impact that community with more offerings, which we're very excited about. And then finally, we've got the Mayor's Play Ball event this Saturday over at Haynes High Street, where the mayor comes down. He joins a handful of our kids, got 20 kids doing baseball skills for them. It's a really nice event. So if you can join us, please do so. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate that. Renata is our park superintendent. They oversee all of our park development and park maintenance. We'll give Renata all the time she needs within these last 8 minutes to kind of go over her updates.
Good afternoon. Just want to give a brief update on, where we are with a lot of our parks and some of our programs and actually projects. Within the next 1 to 2 months, you probably will see a lot of our projects that have been under construction that should be coming to fruition. A lot of them right now are 75 to 95% complete. And just a few of those that are on that horizon, I will basically name. You should see Corey Park at Grant Park Phase 2 should be coming to fruition. I will say Octoberish, Haynes Park Phase 2, Bethania Freeman Park, Long Creek improvements for Phase 2, Easton Restroom, Washington Park, and Sprague Street pool conversion. Those are a few projects that have been in the workings for a while now. So you should see probably those coming to fruition, hopefully in October, depending upon the weather. Also, what we have been working on, as I think William has explained to you all, we received quite a bit of money from council. It was actually approved in July for our fiscal year 23 with LOBS. Some of those projects have been put into fruition and they have actually started in their design phase. So we have put out the RFPs, RFQs out there. We have some designers that have actually been vetted and approved through city council. So some of those projects that you should see within the next 1 to 3 months after design and then construction will be Salem Lake. The trellis bridge should be coming. There will be repairs to that bridge at Salem Lake. You should also see in the design phase is the Minnie Lee Davis Harris Recreation Center improvements. There will be a Crossland Park. We're developing a master plan out there. So we will be, after that, move forward with hopefully construction of that particular park, and Granville Park. So Granville Park will be coming on board within the next 1 to 3 months. We'll be going to council, I think it should be this month, in regards to construction. And so within the next, I'd say 3 to 6 months, we have several other projects that are coming aboard. One is the increased improvements for Nelson Malloy Park for Phase 2. Long Creek Park improvements Phase 2, which consist of the walking trails and the loop and bridge repair. Nelson Malloy will feature improvements. We will have an irrigation system installed. We will do concrete installation with stone at the splash pad to prevent the runoff. We will do pervious concrete for the walking path. There will be landscaping, new bike racks, and other new ADA amenities out there at that particular park. And also, last but not least, you will see improvements within the next 3 to 6 months coming through for the Winston Lake Golf Course improvements, which consist of fairway improvements, bunkers, tee box renovations, green replacements, drainage, and, just removal of vegetation assets. So those are the things that we have on our plate that we're looking to come to fruition and also start on our design phase there. We are continually to put out more projects as we do have more projects. So as we move forward, I do have a new capital projects coordinator coming on board. Today is his first day. He's in orientation for 2 days. So hopefully at our next meeting, you'll be able to meet. His name is Benjamin Hatch. So you'll be able to meet him. So he will be coming in right at the right time, and we will get him kind of acclimated to the process, and we'll be moving forward with quite a few other projects. So that's all I have for you today. Any questions?
I know that Renata and her team have been working very, very hard. She mentioned that we received additional funding in July from limited obligation bonds, and we also received some mid-year grant funding from the state. And a lot of those projects we're beginning to move forward with a lot of those projects. And, I think that just from where I sit, from my point of view, from what I've been told is that, over the past, 10, after the 2014 bonds, we've done very well in recreation in terms of spending, being good stewards of the taxpayers' money, spending money wisely, getting very, very creative with some solutions that we've implemented across our park system. I think it's finally catching on. I was told many, many years ago by Tim Grant when he was director that Winston is very conservative. They don't like a lot of change real fast, and he freaked out when I had a playground already under construction. He didn't even know what it looked like. It ended up being the rocket ship that's out at Oak Summit. So we've continued to push the envelope in terms of what citizens expect. Is our commitment as a department to continue that creativity and innovative design solutions as we move forward, spending this new round of money. I hope that the residents are ready because we have some surprises for them. I think that a lot of people are going to be very, very happy and impressed with how we've been not only addressing years of deferred maintenance, but also finding creative ways to do that, but also creating some things that people can enjoy and play with and have fun with that are above ground as well. So we have our work cut out for us moving forward, Chair and Commission, but we will get there. And Chair, that concludes our departmental updates.
I have a quick question for Renata on the Quarry Park. I was out there last week, I think it was, looking around, and I noticed that on that, the cantilever kind of viewing point, where they have all the locks and everything, is that going to be included in basically fixing all that? Because a lot of the netting was all torn, things like that.
I've spoken with William. We have been given a quote, as well as we have been giving drawings in regards to replacing that particular netting with the netting that they're using on the actual playground there. It will be a thicker gauge netting, and it will be more bonded. So we are looking at that, and we have that price. So we will probably be replacing that.
Okay. And what about the graffiti that I saw out there? I assume you guys are going to take care of that too.
Yes, sir. We will be taking care of the graffiti.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Does anybody have anything else? If not, can we have a motion to adjourn?
Nobody?
George.
All right. Thanks, George. All right. Our meeting is adjourned. We will see you all in person in October, and we'll send out some more details about that. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.